I used to think the worst thing Damon Voss ever did to me was ruin my senior year. I was wrong. The worst thing he ever did was buy my entire future, and not tell me until I was already standing in his apartment, suitcase in hand, watching him smirk at me from across a kitchen that smelled exactly like everything my body had been trained to want. Before we go on with this story, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It truly encourages us to keep creating the best content for you. I stepped out of the elevator with my heart hammering against my ribs, the keycard heavy in my palm like it was the last good thing left in my life. The hallway smelled of polished marble and faint citrus air freshener, clean, expensive, safe. My suitcase wheels whispered behind me as I approached 2801. The penthouse unit the studio had promised was fully sponsored luxury housing. I'd pictured quiet mornings with my sketchbook, no one to trigger my old scars, no alpha scent to make my suppressants fight for control. I slid the keycard in. The lock clicked green. The door swung open to a wall of warm, smoky cedar and dark amber that hit me like a physical shove. My stomach flipped. My knees buckled before my brain could catch up. There, in the open-plan kitchen bathed in evening light, stood Damon Voss. Shirtless, water still dripping from his black hair onto broad, tattooed shoulders. A towel hung low on his hips, and the smirk that used to haunt my nightmares curved his lips as he looked up from his phone. "Welcome home, Park." His voice, low, lazy, velvet over steel, slid straight under my skin. 5 years vanished in a heartbeat. I was 18 again, cornered in that locker room while the entire senior class laughed. My body didn't care about memory. Heat bloomed low in my belly, a treacherous slick warmth already threatening the edge of my scent blocker patch. My hands shook so badly the suitcase handle slipped. What the hell are you doing here?" I choked out, voice cracking like thin ice. Damon set his phone down slowly, muscles shifting under golden skin as he crossed the kitchen. Each step made the air thicker with his scent. My pulse thundered in my ears. "I live here," he said simply, stopping just close enough that I could see the faint scar on his left collarbone. The one I used to stare at during class when I thought no one noticed. "Bought the building 6 months ago. Part of the talent housing program your precious studio signed you into. Didn't you read the fine print, Riley?" I backed up until my shoulders hit the still open door. "You're lying. This is my apartment. The contract said. The contract said you get luxury housing sponsored by Voss Tech," he cut in, voice dropping an octave. His eyes, dark, predatory, amused, raked over me from my trembling lips to the death grip I had on my bag. "And I decide who lives where." Surprise. My vision blurred. Vanilla and fear. That's what he used to say back then, right before everything fell apart. The words echoed now like a sick promise. "Still smell like vanilla and fear, Park. Cute." The line landed like a match to gasoline. My body betrayed me instantly, knees going liquid, a fresh rush of slick soaking into my underwear. Shame burned hotter than the arousal. I hated him. I hated how my omega instincts still recognized him as danger and safety twisted into one unbearable knot. I didn't think. I just moved. Shoving past him, I bolted for the hallway I prayed led to a bathroom, suitcase abandoned like dead weight. The door slammed behind me harder than I meant. I twisted the lock with shaking fingers and slid down to the cold tile floor, back pressed against the wood. Tears came fast and ugly. Hot tracks down my cheeks as I buried my face in my hands, trying to muffle the broken sounds clawing up my throat. How? How had he done this? How had the man who publicly destroyed me, outed me in front of 300 people with a single cruel joke, quietly bought every piece of my future? Through the door, his low laugh bled through like smoke. Rich. Unhurried. Intimate. "Take your time, baby," Damon called softly, voice carrying that same calm possession. "Cry it out. But you're not leaving. Not tonight. Not ever, unless I say so." I pressed my palms harder over my mouth, shoulders shaking. The worst part wasn't the fear. It wasn't even the humiliation pooling between my legs. It was the tiny, traitorous spark in my chest that whispered he was right. My body had never forgotten him. And now, trapped in his apartment with his scent wrapping around me like chains. I wasn't sure I ever would. The questions burned hotter than my tears. How had this happened? And what the hell was going to happen next? Chapter 1, Fine Print. I stayed locked in the bathroom until my tears dried into angry, stinging tracks and the slick between my legs had cooled to a humiliating dampness. When I finally stepped out, the apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the city beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Damon leaned against the kitchen island, now wearing a black shirt that clung to his shoulders, scrolling through his phone like he hadn't just upended my entire life. "Feeling better?" he asked without looking up. I ignored him and grabbed my suitcase, dragging it toward what I hoped was the bedroom. The space was massive. One enormous bed dressed in dark silk, a single walk-in closet, and windows that overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. No couch. No guest room. Just one bed. My stomach dropped. I pulled out the contract folder the studio had emailed me and sat on the edge of the mattress, hands shaking as I flipped through the pages I should have read weeks ago. Every clause was airtight. Section 4.2. Housing is provided exclusively within Voss Tower under the direct oversight of Voss Tech. Occupancy terms are non-negotiable. Section 7.1. Breach of any housing policy results in immediate termination of the creative contract and industry blacklist for a minimum of 5 years. Section 9.3. Experimental suppressant access is tied to continued compliance with all sponsorship terms. Discontinuation without approval will trigger immediate heat instability. Damon's shadow fell over the pages. "You should have read it before you signed, Riley." I looked up, throat tight. "This is insane. You can't just trap me here. There has to be a way out." "There isn't." He sat on the opposite side of the bed, calm as ever, voice smooth and measured like he was explaining the weather. "The studio needed funding. I provided it. In exchange, I choose the talent housing. You're the talent, Park. And the policy is simple. No scent blockers after 10 p.m. company rule. Your body needs to adjust to the environment." My fingers clenched around the papers. "You're doing this on purpose. You want me to. Respond." He tilted his head, eyes dark with something unreadable. "Your suppressants are already weakening. My scent is in the air, in the sheets, in every corner of this apartment. Fighting it will only make the next heat worse. Much worse." I wanted to scream. Instead, I shoved the contract away and built a pathetic wall of pillows down the center of the bed. Damon watched with that faint smirk, but didn't stop me. At exactly 10 p.m., I peeled off my last scent-blocking patch with trembling fingers. The moment the adhesive left my skin, his alpha pheromones rushed in, deep cedar, warm amber, something dangerously addictive. I crawled to the far edge of the mattress, back turned to him, heart pounding so hard I felt it in my teeth. The sheets already carried his scent, wrapping around me like invisible hands. My body reacted instantly, a slow, traitorous warmth pooling low, my pulse fluttering in places I refused to name. Damon switched off the light. The room plunged into soft darkness broken only by the city glow. "Sleep, Riley," he murmured from the other side of the pillow wall, voice low and far too close. "You're safe here, whether you believe it or not." Safe. The word tasted like a lie. I lay rigid, staring at the faint lights on the ceiling, every breath pulling more of him into my lungs. My skin prickled. My thighs pressed together against the growing slickness. Hours passed, and I didn't sleep at all, only listened to the steady rhythm of his breathing and hated how my body relaxed into the sound despite everything. By the time dawn crept through the windows, I was exhausted, aching, and terrifyingly aware that Damon Voss had already started sinking under my skin. And the worst part was the tiny, broken whisper inside me that didn't entirely want him to stop. Chapter 2, The Locker Room. I sat at the shared desk in the living room, sketchbook open, trying to lose myself in lines and shadows the way I always had. The morning light poured through the windows, but peace wouldn't come. 10 feet away, Damon worked out shirtless on the floor mat, muscles flexing with every controlled push-up. His skin glistened with a light sheen of sweat, and that cedar amber scent rolled off him in waves, thick and unrelenting now that the 10 p.m. rule had stripped away my last defense. My pencil trembled. The character on the page, meant to be a confident hero, started to look too soft, too vulnerable. The lines blurred. "Focus, Riley," I whispered to myself, but my mind dragged me back 5 years. Senior year. The locker room smelled of metal and old sweat. I had been changing after gym class, headphones in, trying to stay invisible like always. Then the door banged open and Damon Voss walked in with his usual crew, laughing about something stupid. I froze, shirt half on. "Hey, Park," Damon called, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Still hiding that pretty omega scent under all those layers? Or are you finally going to admit what you are?" The room went quiet. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Leave me alone," I muttered, but my voice cracked. One of his friends snatched my bag and dumped it. My suppressant spilled out, along with a small bottle of scent blocker I'd begged my parents to buy. Laughter erupted. Damon stepped closer, that smirk on his face. Look at him. Blushing already. Bet he's slick just from hearing my voice. The words hit like a slap. I tried to shove past, but someone tripped me. I hit the bench hard. Phones came out. Recording. "Stop," I begged, tears burning my eyes. Damon's voice rose above the noise, clear and cruel for the whole school to hear later when the video spread. "Riley Park is an omega, everyone. And he's been creaming himself over alphas like me all year. Pathetic, right?" The laughter exploded. Someone pushed me against the lockers while the video captured every humiliated tear. Damon stood in the center, laughing with the rest, or so I thought. But the memory sharpened now, crueler than before. In the chaos, as I curled on the floor trying to disappear, the camera in my mind lingered on Damon's face. He wasn't laughing anymore. His eyes were fixed on me, dark, intense, not amused. Just watching. Possessive. Almost pained. Back in the present, my pencil snapped in my grip. Ink smudged across the page. Damon finished his set and stood, wiping sweat from his chest with a towel. He glanced at me, breath steady. "You're gripping that pencil like you want to stab someone." "Bad memories." I didn't answer at first. My cheeks burned as another wave of his scent hit me, making my thighs clench involuntarily. "Why did you do it?" I finally asked, voice barely above a whisper. "In the locker room that day. You outed me in front of the entire school. You laughed while they recorded me crying." "Why?" He tossed the towel aside and leaned against the desk, close enough that I could see the faint scar on his collarbone again. "You remember it that way? How else should I remember it?" My voice rose, shaky with old anger. "You destroyed me. I couldn't walk the halls without people whispering 'slick boy' or trying to corner me. I almost dropped out because of you." Damon's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. I laughed because they expected me to. Because if I didn't, someone worse would have come for you. "My father," he stopped, jaw tightening. "Never mind. You were never supposed to be anyone's target but mine." "That doesn't make it okay," I snapped, pushing the sketchbook away. The blurred lines stared back at me like an accusation. "You stood there and let them film it. Your voice was the loudest." He reached out slowly, fingers brushing a stray strand of hair from my forehead. I flinched but didn't pull away. His touch was warm, surprisingly gentle. "And yet here you are, Riley. Still responding to that same voice. Your hand is shaking. Your scent is sweeter already." I hated how right he was. Heat crawled up my neck. "Don't touch me. Tell me to stop and I will," he murmured, but his fingers lingered a second longer before dropping. "But we both know your body never listened to your hate." I stood abruptly, chair scraping loud against the floor. "I'm trying to work. Just stay away from me." Damon straightened, that calm smirk returning, but his eyes held the same intense watchfulness from the memory. "You can run to the bedroom again if you want. But the lines on your page are already blurring, Park. Just like back then." I grabbed my sketchbook and fled toward the hallway, heart racing, body aching with unwanted slick. The flashback clung to me like his scent, Damon's laugh echoing in my ears, but now mixed with that final image of his face in the crowd. Not laughing. Watching. Protecting? Or simply claiming what he'd decided was his all along? I didn't know anymore. And that terrified me more than the bullying ever had. Chapter 3, 10 p.m. I sat cross-legged on the far edge of the massive bed, the digital clock glowing 9:58 p.m. like a countdown to my own execution. The pillow wall I'd built earlier looked ridiculous now. Sad stacks of silk cushions that did nothing to block the heavy cedar amber scent already seeping into every corner of the apartment. Damon lounged on the couch in the living area, long legs stretched out, scrolling through his phone with that calm, unhurried patience that made my skin crawl. He hadn't said much since dinner, just watched me pick at my food like he was waiting for something inevitable. The clock flipped to 10 o'clock. "Time's up, Riley," he said quietly, not even looking up. "Company policy." My hands shook as I reached for the last scent-blocking patch at the base of my neck. The adhesive pulled at my skin with a soft rip. The moment it came off, cool air hit the sensitive spot, and I felt naked in a way clothes could never fix. For the first 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then Damon's pheromones rushed in like smoke through an open window, thick, warm, impossibly intimate. They wrapped around me, sinking into my lungs with every breath. My pulse spiked. A slow, traitorous heat bloomed low in my belly, spreading downward until I had to press my thighs together. Within 20 minutes, it was worse than I feared. My body responded like it had been waiting years for this exact moment. Slick warmth soaked through my thin sweatpants, making the fabric cling uncomfortably. My nipples tightened under my shirt, sensitive and aching. Even my scent, vanilla and something sweeter, more desperate, began to bloom in the air, mixing with his in a way that made my head spin. I hated it. I hated how a year of strong suppressants suddenly felt like nothing against him. Damon finally set his phone down. He didn't move closer. He just sat across the room in the low lamplight, elbows on his knees, dark eyes fixed on me with quiet intensity. "Look at you," he murmured, voice low and rough around the edges. "Already trembling. Already wet for me, and I haven't even touched you." "Shut up," I whispered, but it came out breathy weak. My hands fisted in the sheets as another wave rolled through me, making my back arch slightly against my will. "Your body remembers me, Riley. It always did." His words slid over my skin like a caress. "Those suppressants never stood a chance once my scent got under your skin again. You can fight it all you want, but your pretty little omega instincts know exactly who they belong to." Tears of humiliation pricked my eyes. I could feel the slick continuing to leak, slow and steady, ruining my clothes and the edge of the bed. My breathing had gone shallow, every inhale pulling more of him into me until I felt drunk on it. "I hate you," I managed, standing on shaky legs. The movement only made it worse. Friction against the damp fabric drew a tiny, involuntary sound from my throat. Damon's gaze darkened, but he stayed seated, hands relaxed on his thighs. "I know. But you're dripping anyway. Go hide if you need to, baby. I won't follow tonight." I fled to the bedroom without another word, slamming the door behind me harder than necessary. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the quiet apartment. I pressed my back to the wood, sliding down until I sat on the floor, knees drawn to my chest. The scent followed me even here. His scent, now embedded in the sheets, the pillows, the very air. My body kept responding, waves of unwanted arousal crashing through me no matter how hard I tried to ignore it. I buried my face in my arms, biting my lip to stay silent as silent tears slipped down my cheeks. Hours passed. I didn't come out. I lay curled on the very edge of the bed, wide awake, listening to the occasional soft sound of Damon moving in the living room. Every shift of fabric, every quiet breath reminded me he was still there, patient, watching, waiting. By the time faint gray dawn light crept through the windows, I was exhausted, aching, and terrifyingly aware that my body had already started to betray me completely. And Damon hadn't even touched me yet. Chapter 4, Heat Warning. I woke up burning. Not the slow warmth from the night before, but a full, vicious fire that licked through my veins and settled deep in my core. My heat, weeks early, impossible on my current suppressants, had crashed over me like a wave. Sweat soaked the sheets. My thighs were slick beyond control, the scent of desperate vanilla and needy omega flooding the bedroom. Every breath pulled in more of Damon's cedar amber, making the cramps twist harder. I barely made it to the door before locking it with trembling fingers. Damon. My voice cracked as I pressed my forehead to the wood. Something's wrong. It's too soon. From the other side, his low, steady voice answered immediately, calm as ever. I know. Your suppressants have been failing for days. My scent's been breaking them down, Riley. You don't have to suffer alone. I slid down the door, legs folding under me as another wave hit. A broken whimper escaped before I could stop it. The sound of his voice, so close, so deep, sent a fresh gush of slick between my legs and made the ache sharpen into something almost pleasurable. Horror twisted in my chest. His words were making it worse. And better. So much better. Go away, I gasped, pressing my palms to the door like I could push him back. Please just leave the apartment. I'm not leaving. His tone stayed unhurried, patient, like he had all night. You're in my building, in my care. Let me in, baby. I can help you through this. No, tears stung my eyes as I curled tighter, hips rocking involuntarily against nothing. The friction only teased. I hate how you make me feel. Your voice, it's making everything worse. A soft chuckle drifted through the wood, warm and dark. That's because your body knows what it needs. It's been calling for me since the moment you walked in. You don't have to fight it alone, Riley. Open the door. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood, fighting the urge to obey. The cramps rolled again, pulling a shaky moan from my throat. His scent was everywhere, thick in the air, soaked into the sheets I'd tried to escape. My mind spun with the terrifying realization that his presence, even separated by a door, eased the edge of the pain while stoking the fire higher. The doorbell rang. Damon's voice shifted instantly colder. Stay there. I heard him cross the apartment. Muffled voices filtered back. Another alpha, familiar from the studio chats. Minjun. The one who had been messaging me for weeks, circling with flirty offers of coffee and protection from the office politics. Hey, I heard Riley moved in here. Thought I'd check if he's settling okay. Maybe take him out for. He's not available, Damon cut in, voice flat and dangerous. And he won't be. Ever. A pause. Then Minjun laughed nervously. Come on, Voss. Sharing is. Touch him and I'll blacklist you from every studio in Seoul before lunch. Damon's tone dropped to a lethal growl. He's mine. Scent marked the first night. Get the fuck out. The door slammed. Footsteps returned. I stayed pressed against the bedroom door, heart hammering, body still writhing with need. Damon's voice came softer again, right against the wood. He won't come near you again. No one will. I couldn't answer. Another cramp hit, and I whimpered louder, the sound humiliatingly needy. Riley. Damon's voice lowered, intimate. Let me in. You're burning up. I can hear it in every breath you take. You don't have to do this alone. I shook my head even though he couldn't see, tears slipping down my flushed cheeks. His voice wrapped around me like silk chains, making the heat sharper, the emptiness deeper, yet somehow anchoring me through the storm. Minutes later, he coaxed me out with quiet promises. We ended up on the balcony, the cool night air doing little against the fire inside me. City lights blurred below us, glass railing cold under my hands as I gripped it for support. Damon stood close, too close, his body heat radiating against my back. He didn't touch me, but his presence loomed, territorial and steady after driving Minjun away. Look at the lights, Riley, he murmured near my ear. Breathe. I've got you. My body leaned back against him before my mind could stop it. His scent enveloped me completely. For one suspended moment, his lips hovered inches from mine, breath mingling in the cool air. The almost kiss hung there, glass and city lights framing us like a forbidden painting. My lips parted, trembling with need and fear. Then I pulled away, stumbling back inside on shaky legs. I locked the bedroom door again that night, but the damage was done. Damon's territorial claim still echoed in my ears, and my heat continued to rage, fed by the very voice that both tormented and comforted me. I didn't sleep. I only burned, wondering how much longer I could pretend I didn't want him to break down that door. Chapter 5: The Gala. I stood in front of the full-length mirror, fingers trembling as I adjusted the collar of the black silk shirt Damon had chosen for me. It clung to my frame like a second skin, the deep V-neck dipping lower than anything I would have picked, exposing the faint scent gland at the base of my throat. The matching trousers hugged my hips and thighs, tailored perfectly, too perfectly. Every movement reminded me how attuned my body had become to his scent after weeks of sharing that apartment. "You look exquisite," Damon said from the doorway, his voice low and satisfied. He wore a tailored charcoal suit that made him look every inch the powerful alpha he was. "Ready?" "I don't want to go," I muttered, but I already knew it wasn't optional. The contract made that clear. He stepped closer, adjusting my cuff with surprising gentleness. "You're my guest tonight, Riley. Smile for the cameras. Let them see who you belong with." The gala was held in a glittering ballroom overlooking the Han River. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over industry giants. Studio executives, famous artists, producers who could make or break careers with a single word. The moment we entered, heads turned. Whispers followed. Damon's hand settled at the small of my back, warm and possessive, guiding me through the crowd. His cedar amber scent wrapped around me like a claim, stronger now after so many nights without blockers. My body reacted instantly. A soft, involuntary purr rumbled in my chest, quiet, but unmistakable in the lull between conversations. Heat flooded my face. I tried to swallow it down, but another wave hit when his thumb brushed lightly over my spine. "Damon," I whispered, mortified, my voice barely audible over the string quartet. "Shuh," he murmured near my ear, leaning in so only I could hear. "Let it happen. They all know you're with me." The purr continued, low and traitorous, vibrating through my ribs every time his fingers pressed a little firmer against my back. Humiliation burned hotter than the arousal pooling low in my belly. Here I was, surrounded by people who could decide my future, purring like a needy omega for the alpha who had once destroyed me. The two feelings twisted together until I couldn't tell them apart. Shame and want, fear and desperate comfort. An executive approached, smiling broadly. "Voss, and this must be the talented Riley Park. We've heard great things about your illustrations." Damon's hand stayed exactly where it was, a steady anchor. "He's brilliant. And mine." I forced a smile, cheeks flaming as another quiet purr slipped out. The executive's eyes flickered with understanding, amusement, maybe envy. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Throughout the evening, Damon never removed his hand. He introduced me to everyone, his touch a constant reminder. Every laugh, every subtle shift of his fingers sent fresh sparks through my nerves. My scent sweetened against my will, mixing with his in the crowded room until I felt marked, owned, displayed. By the time we left, my legs felt weak and my mind was a haze of embarrassment and lingering heat. In the back of the sleek black car, I stared out the window at the passing city lights, saying nothing. The purr had finally faded, but the memory of it, of purring publicly for him, still made my skin prickle with shame. Damon sat beside me, silent at first. Then his gaze never left my face the entire drive. I could feel it, intense, watchful, satisfied. "You did well tonight," he said quietly, breaking the heavy silence. I didn't turn my head. My reflection in the glass looked flushed, vulnerable. I hated every second. "Did you?" His voice held a hint of dark amusement. "Because your body seemed to enjoy my hand on you. That pretty little purr. Everyone heard how much you liked being claimed in public." Heat crawled up my neck. I pressed my thighs together, still sensitive from the evening's torment. "It was involuntary. Because of your scent. Because you've been forcing me to. Because you're starting to accept it," he interrupted gently. "You're mine, Riley. And tonight the whole industry saw it." I stayed silent, staring at the blurred lights outside. His eyes stayed on me the whole way home, watching, waiting, patient as ever. The humiliation lingered, but so did the warmth of his hand on my back, the memory of that steady touch. I hated how safe it had felt. How right. And I hated myself even more for the small part of me that had started to crave it. Chapter 6, I destroyed it. I stormed into the apartment after the gala, the silk shirt Damon had chosen for me suddenly feeling like chains against my skin. The moment the door clicked shut behind us, the humiliation from the evening boiled over into something sharper, uglier. You had no right, I spat, whirling on him. My hands shook as I yanked at the collar, trying to breathe. Parading me around like that, your hand on my back the entire night, making me purr in front of everyone. Do you have any idea how that felt? Damon stood by the kitchen island, loosening his tie with calm fingers. You looked beautiful. They all saw exactly what I wanted them to see. That's the problem. My voice cracked, years of swallowed pain rushing up my throat. You always decide everything. Just like in high school. You decided to out me in that locker room. You decided to laugh while the whole school recorded me crying on the floor. You decided I was yours to ruin. I stepped closer, tears burning my eyes. The words I had buried for 5 years poured out in a broken scream. You destroyed my life, Damon. I couldn't walk down the hallway without someone whispering "slick boy" or trying to corner me. I ate lunch in bathroom stalls for months because no one would sit with me. I nearly dropped out my senior year. My grades tanked. I lost every scholarship dream I had. The scars are still there. Every time I smell cedar or hear a deep voice, I flinch. And you stood there and laughed while it happened. You destroyed it all. My chest heaved, fists clenched at my sides. The apartment felt too small, his scent too heavy after the gala. For the first time since I'd moved in, Damon didn't smirk. The calm mask cracked. His shoulders dropped, jaw tight, eyes dark with something raw and painful. He looked broken. I know, he said quietly, voice rough. I destroyed it. The admission hit harder than any taunt. I laughed bitterly, tears slipping down my cheeks. Then why? Why did you do it if you knew? He took a step toward me, then stopped, hands flexing like he wanted to reach out, but didn't dare. Because my father found out I wanted you. He threatened to ruin you, really ruin you, if I ever claimed you or showed interest. The only way I could keep other alphas away was to make you untouchable in the worst way. To make you mine by making everyone else fear touching you. It was twisted. It was cruel. But it was the only thing I knew how to do at 17. I stared at him, heart hammering. That's your excuse? You destroyed my life to protect me. I've been in love with you since we were 17, you idiot, he said, the words breaking out of him like they hurt. His voice cracked on the last part. I didn't know how to do anything else. Every drawing you posted anonymously, I saved it. Every night I watched the videos I made them delete, hating myself. I bought this building, the contract, the suppressants, everything, so I could finally have you close without anyone else getting between us. I'm sorry, Riley. I'm so fucking sorry. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scream more. But the fight drained out of me, leaving only exhaustion and a strange, terrifying stillness. I don't forgive you, I whispered finally, voice hoarse. Not for the locker room. Not for the years I spent hating myself because of you. I can't. Damon nodded slowly, eyes never leaving mine. No smirk. No defense. Just raw, open pain. I know. I don't expect you to. I turned away, but I didn't run to the bedroom this time. I walked to the couch and sank down, burying my face in my hands. My shoulders shook with silent sobs. He didn't come closer. He just stayed there, breathing uneven, letting the truth hang in the air between us. I didn't forgive him. But for the first time since move-in day, I stopped running. Chapter 7, glass shattering. I couldn't breathe. The fight from earlier still echoed in my chest, raw and bleeding. Damon stood only a few feet away in the dim living room, his confession hanging between us like broken glass. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my throat. 5 years of hatred, 5 years of wanting something I refused to name, crashed together in one unbearable wave. You can't just say that, I whispered, voice shaking. You can't tell me you loved me while you were destroying me and expect anything to change. I'm not expecting anything, Damon said, his voice low and rough, stripped of its usual calm. He took one step closer, then another, until the heat of his body reached mine. But I'm done pretending I don't want you, Riley. I've been done for years. The air thickened. His cedar amber scent wrapped around me, heavy and insistent after weeks of proximity. My body answered before my mind could catch up. Slick warmth flooding between my thighs, knees weakening as the heat from my earlier near heat flared back to life. I hated how much I needed this. How much I needed him. Don't, I breathed, but it wasn't a real protest. My hands came up anyway, fisting in the front of his shirt. Damon's control snapped. His mouth crashed into mine, hungry and desperate, years of restraint shattering in a single kiss. I gasped against his lips as he backed me toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. My back hit the cold glass with a dull thud. His hands were everywhere, rough, trembling, tearing at the silk shirt he'd chosen for the gala. Fabric ripped with a sharp sound, buttons scattering across the floor like tiny accusations. Damon, I choked out between kisses, tears already slipping down my cheeks. I know, he growled against my mouth, voice broken. I know, baby. Let me have this. Let me have you. He shoved my ruined shirt off my shoulders, mouth trailing hot down my neck, teeth grazing the sensitive gland there. Another rip, my trousers torn open at the seam. Glass vibrated behind me as he lifted me, pressing me harder against the window. The city lights blurred below, a dizzying backdrop to the collision of hatred and desperate want. I cried through most of it. Tears streamed down my face as he entered me in one deep thrust, stretching me open, filling the aching emptiness I'd tried to ignore for years. Pleasure and grief twisted together so tightly I couldn't tell them apart. Every thrust pulled broken sobs from my throat. Grief for the boy I used to be, release for the years of loneliness, and something deeper I refused to name. Damon sighed, forehead pressed to mine, hips snapping with raw need. His hands gripped my thighs hard enough to bruise. You feel so perfect. So mine. I clung to his shoulders, nails digging in, crying harder as waves of overwhelming sensation crashed over me. The glass behind me creaked under the force, a thin crack spidering out from where my shoulder blade pressed against it. 5 years of pain and unspoken longing collided in that single room, shattering everything I thought I knew about myself. When release finally hit, it tore through both of us, my body clenching around him, his knot swelling deep inside, locking us together. I buried my face in his neck, sobbing quietly against his skin as aftershocks trembled through me. Later, we lay tangled on the wide bed in the dark. The city lights painted soft patterns across the ceiling. My body ached in the best and worst ways, slick and sweat cooling on my skin. Damon's arm rested heavy over my waist, his breathing slow but not peaceful. I stared at the ceiling, tears still drying on my cheeks. I hate you, I whispered quietly into the darkness. Damon shifted, pulling me closer against his chest without a word at first. His lips brushed my temple, gentle now. I know, he murmured, voice thick with exhaustion and something softer. I know. Neither of us moved apart. I stayed there, wrapped in his arms, listening to his heartbeat under my ear. The hatred was still there, sharp and real. But so was the warmth of his body against mine, the steady rhythm of his breathing, and the terrifying realization that, for tonight at least, I didn't want to run anymore. Chapter 8, The Folder. I woke before dawn, body still aching from the night before, every bruise and tender spot a silent reminder of glass shattering and 5 years colliding. Damon's arm was heavy across my waist, his breathing deep and even. I slipped out carefully, skin prickling as cool air replaced his warmth. I needed something normal. Something mine. His laptop sat open on the desk in the living room, screen glowing faintly. I only meant to check my email, maybe sketch for a few quiet minutes before he woke. My fingers moved across the trackpad, searching for a folder, when I clicked on something labeled Private Archive. It opened. Thousands of files, neatly organized by date. My breath caught. Every illustration I had ever posted anonymously in high school was there, downloaded and dated the exact day they went live. The soft, trembling line work of lonely omegas hiding in shadows. The concept art of broken heroes who never quite escaped. The small, terrified character sketches I drew late at night when the comments about the locker room video still haunted my feed, and drawing was the only place I felt safe. He had saved them all. 6 years worth. I sank slowly to the floor, laptop balanced on my knees, scrolling through the collection with shaking hands. There were even the private pieces I had deleted in panic. The ones where the characters looked too much like me, too much like him watching from the edges. Folders inside folders. Notes in the metadata. Riley, day 47 after the video. Riley looks stronger here. Tears blurred the screen. My chest tightened until breathing hurt. These were the fragments of me I thought no one had ever seen. The quiet screams I'd hidden behind anonymous usernames. And Damon had kept every single one. Guarded them like treasures while I spent years believing he only wanted to break me. I didn't move. I just sat there on the cold floor in nothing but one of his oversized shirts, staring at the evidence of an obsession that went far deeper than I had ever imagined. The hatred inside me fractured a little more, mixing with something warmer and far more dangerous. The soft pad of bare feet approached from the bedroom. Damon stopped a few steps away. He was shirtless, sweatpants riding low on his hips, hair still messy from sleep. His eyes flicked from my face to the open laptop on my lap, and understanding settled over his features. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I looked up at him through wet lashes, voice barely a whisper when I finally broke the silence. You kept them, all of them. Damon didn't move closer. He simply nodded once, eyes dark and unguarded. Every single one. Why? The word came out cracked, raw with everything I was feeling. He swallowed, jaw tight. Because they were you. The only parts of you I was allowed to have for a long time. When I couldn't touch you, when I couldn't protect you the right way. I kept these. So I wouldn't forget why I was fighting so hard to get you here. I closed the laptop slowly, fingers lingering on the cool metal. Tears slipped down my cheeks again, but I didn't wipe them away. I thought you hated me. Or that I was just some game to you. You were never a game, Riley. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. You were the only thing that ever mattered. Even when I was too stupid and too scared to do it right. I stayed on the floor, laptop clutched to my chest like a shield I no longer fully believed in. Damon remained standing there, watching me with that same intense gaze from the locker room memory. Possessive, pained, devoted. Neither of us moved to close the distance. But for the first time, the silence between us didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like the beginning of something neither of us could run from anymore. Chapter 9, mine, if you let me. The live company meeting had barely started when the first cramp hit. I was on camera, stylus hovering over my tablet, presenting rough concept art for the new series when heat slammed into me like a freight train. Weeks early again. My voice faltered mid-sentence. Slick flooded hot and sudden between my thighs, soaking through my trousers. The vanilla-sweet scent of a desperate omega bloomed in the air despite the closed apartment. Riley, you okay? Someone asked through the screen. I couldn't answer. My body was already burning, knees buckling under the desk. Damon moved instantly. He ended the call with one sharp click, locked the front door, and drew every blind. The apartment plunged into soft, private darkness broken only by the city glow. Damon, I gasped, gripping the edge of the desk as another wave crashed through me. He crossed the room in 3 strides and scooped me up without a word. This time there was no locked bedroom door between us. He carried me straight to the bed we had shared since the night the glass shattered and laid me down gently, eyes dark with hunger and something far softer. You don't have to fight it anymore, he murmured, stripping off his shirt. I've got you. Clothes disappeared in frantic, trembling movements. His mouth found mine, deep and claiming, while his hands mapped every inch of fevered skin. This time the knot was real, thick, locking us together as my body clenched around him, drawing him deeper. I cried again, but the tears felt different now. Grief and release mixed with a terrifying kind of surrender. Damon's forehead rested against mine. His voice was raw, breaking on every word. I'm sorry, Riley. For the locker room. For the years I made you hate yourself. For every tear you cried because of me. He kissed my wet cheeks, then my trembling lips. I'll spend the rest of my life making it right, if you'll let me. The words sank into me deeper than his knot. I sobbed against his shoulder, nails digging into his back as pleasure and forgiveness I wasn't ready to name tore through me. When the knot finally began to go down, I was boneless, marked inside and out. Later, while Damon stepped into the shower, I stood in front of the mirror on shaky legs. I tilted my head and froze. There it was, faint but unmistakable. A permanent scent mark on the gland at the base of my neck. Placed the very first night I had moved in, when I'd been too overwhelmed to notice. He had marked me before I even understood the trap. I was never going to be allowed to leave. The realization should have terrified me. Instead, something inside me settled. When Damon came back into the room, towel around his waist, I was still standing there, fingers tracing the mark. He stopped, watching me carefully. "Riley." I turned to face him across the room. My voice came out quiet, but steady for the first time since move-in day. "I'm staying." Damon's breath caught. He crossed the space between us and pulled me into his arms. No smirk. No calculated calm. Just raw relief and quiet devotion. Weeks later, the studio was quiet after hours. I sat in Damon's lap at my drawing desk, a delicate black collar resting against my throat. Tasteful, expensive his. My stylus moved across the tablet while his hand rested possessively at my neck, thumb brushing the mark he had placed there the first night. The next heat was already marked on the calendar. I leaned back against his chest, purring softly as his scent surrounded me completely. No more running. No more pretending. "Comfortable?" he murmured against my hair, voice low and satisfied. I smiled faintly, continuing to draw. Yes. Neither of us was pretending anymore.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the story, tell us your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for more stories.